Perfect. So welcome everybody to week 2 of Relate. We're going to begin with just a short few minutes of landing here into ourselves so we can come into connection together for the next hour and a half and really land in and leaving the day behind us. So inviting you to get comfortable and begin to close down your eyes or lower your gaze, whatever is best for you. And beginning just to arrive into yourself, noticing if there's any parts of the body that maybe feel a little bit impatient or uncomfortable. Let's start with the feet. And as we move our way up the body, just noticing what's happening in each area. And if there's any adjustments that can be made to better support your physical being, then please do so. Checking in with the feet, the lower legs, the upper legs, the pelvis, the abdomen and lower back, middle back, upper back and shoulder blades, the chest, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, the neck, back and front, the face, maybe stretching out and giving a little bit of movement if there's any tension in the jaw or in the neck, the back of the head and the top of the head. And for the next few breaths, I invite with the inhale that you fill your entire body with this inhale. As you breathe in, imagine it filling your head, down the neck, down the shoulders, into the abdomen, down the legs and into the feet, and then exhaling out through the feet. So a nice deep inhale to give yourself time for this whole sweep of the body in your mind's eye. And then exhaling. And if you find you're at your exhale before you've done your full sweep of the body, that's totally fine. Just exhale from wherever you land. And one more here. Inviting in some grounding touch. You can press firmly on your legs, your sides, your arms, your shoulder. Bringing a little bit of connection into the body. I am here. Rounding in. Shaking out the hands when you're done. And just taking a moment to observe how you're feeling. Is there anything that's alive for you in this present moment? Not needing to fix or to change anything, just observing. And in your own time, gently blinking open the eyes and coming back into the screen, into this shared space. If you're on the live, and if you're on the recording, coming back into your own space. Great. Welcome. Good. Almost everybody is here, which is lovely. So there's some stuff I'm going to do revision and going a little bit deeper that we covered last week. partly because my connection was bad and also because there was a lot of content. And in reflection, I felt that we moved quite quickly through some pieces that I'd love to give a little bit more attention to. And yeah, like I shared, we're also going to introduce some new concepts and build upon the practices that we began with last week and introducing some new practices in this call. So I'm going to bring up my screen so that we can have right. Okay. Perfect. Is everybody able to see that? Fantastic. So this was page 3 of the handout. It's aspects of conscious relating. I'm doing it like this rather than an actual screen share because I think I can zoom in a little bit better. So what I'm going to do, if you get your paper and pen, I'm going to read through this. And this is a reflective practice for you to write down the aspects that you feel you can deepen in within yourself. So this is observing as I read out and you hear communication. And I go into that a little bit. And if you feel like, wow, yeah, communication, something I could really work on, then you're writing communication in your journal. So it's beginning to identify the different aspects that you can go deeper on. If you have already done this at home, do it again and let's see if it's exactly the same or if there's anything that comes, because all of these are alive as practices. Even the reflection questions, it's not that we do them once and then it's done forever. We can always expand and things change also as we deepen. So getting out your notebook or your paper and pen, and yeah, you can even close down your eyes or just really observe in yourself and be totally honest with yourself. You don't need to share this with anybody. This is really for you. So reflective rather than reactive. So having the capacity to reflect when you're in a situation with somebody rather than reacting. Healing and growing within a relationship container, holding space for each other. And holding space for another is also part of what we've been doing in just listening to another person and allowing them that space to have their own experience whilst we simply listen and are there for them. Self-awareness, being aware of what's going on for you, as well as reflective and taking responsibility. So understanding your own thoughts, feelings, needs, history, trauma, conditioning, and boundaries. So, yeah, being really radically honest with yourself about what's actually happening for you in your inner world. Emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage, self-regulate, and process one's own emotions, as well as having the capacity to hold for the emotional experience of others. I really see these as two different things. To be able to self-regulate and process one's own emotions is huge. It's absolutely massive. And I feel that this is possibly a lifelong process for all of us. Having the capacity to hold for the emotional experience of others is about growing that capacity in ourselves to be in discomfort, potential discomfort. Communication, honest communication, open, vulnerable, from the heart, and whilst listening attentively and empathically to others. So we're really working on this in the practices that we're doing now and we'll be building on over these weeks. Are you being totally honest with others or do you hide yourself? Are you able to be open and communicate from the heart? Is this uncomfortable for you? And how are you when it comes to listening attentively and being empathic with others? Do you find, and in the listening practice, this is a great way to identify if you can listen or if you're always preparing your own answer and response. The willingness to engage in difficult conversations, having the skills needed to resolve conflicts, boundaries, knowing, hearing, and communicating our personal boundaries and consent in relationships. This is just a huge topic. We could do 6 months on just this topic alone. Where do I end and another person begins? Am I able to say no to something? Is it very challenging for me to say no to another person for fear that I might offend them? How is it to hear a no from somebody else? Do I feel a deep rejection in that? And intentionality, approaching relationships with intention and purpose. So this may include setting goals for personal growth within the relationship, actively nurturing connection and intimacy, and being mindful of the impacts of one's words and actions on others. This is also within our friendships and our families. I really feel that this is applicable to all. Many people have challenging relationships within their family, and there's whatever challenging relationships that we have in our life are always the biggest opportunity for personal growth. And yeah, actively nurturing connection, authenticity, being authentic and genuine, being true to oneself and expressing one's thoughts, feelings, and desires honestly and openly in relationships. This is bringing it back to communication. And yeah, I really feel it also brings it back to the boundaries also. Am I really comfortable to show up fully for myself? So I wanted to run through that because I had left it on the um it's on your PDF, but we hadn't actually gone through it on the call last week. And the other question that I really wanted to expand on, which is what did you learn about relating love and romance in your home environment? So, has anybody reflected on that themselves at home? And is there anything that came clarified for you through inquiry with this question? So, to expand a little bit more on this again, it's like, how were your parents or your primary caregivers together? Did you have two primary caregivers or one in your home? How was their dynamic? How was love expressed? Not so much in this moment, it's not so much around how is love expressed or withheld to us, because we're going to cover that more next week now with Fergus going into attachment. But this is still around the models that we've had for love and romance. And how was that for you with the people who were the primary caregivers in your home environment? So I'd love to hear if anyone wants to drop it into the chat, if there's been any reflection on that question for people that has been done at home. We're going to move in to preparing for a practice. See if anybody wants to respond to that at any stage. Please do drop it into the chat. The listening and reflecting practice. Oh, yeah. have a question here I'm going to get to first. Can you say a little more on holding for the emotional experience of others? Yeah. It's Am I looking at my partner here on the screen in front of me? I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable, but um, it's really to be able to stay present. Like when another is having or expressing a challenging experience, that we're just able to be there for them, compassionately listening without needing to offer advice, without needing to fix, trying if it's something to do with us, trying not to go into defensive mode and just simply being there and being present and hearing them. And yeah, I'll give you an example with a friend of mine. We had, I wouldn't say a disagreement, but there was something that had come up in our friendship, and I could feel that there'd been a little bit of distance between us. And she addressed it then through a text message. And yeah, I appreciate that she addressed it. In the moment, I didn't respond because my automatic response would have been like defending myself, keyboard warrior. I just said, okay, I'm just going to wait now. And I sat on it for a couple of days. So I let myself come into regulation. I reflected. And then when I did respond, I did like what we do in the practice, where I just reflected. I can hear that this is going on for you. And then can we meet to, clear the air and find a little bit of closure on this? And I love those little moments because I celebrate myself in that where I'm like, I've actually learned a skill that I'm able to use and I can see in my life where this is benefiting me. And it's simply that it's like calming and regulating myself and just being present for another person. Is that clarifying for you, Romy? Let me know if that gives a little bit of support on that question. Do you see on my screen? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we're about to have an answer here to my previous question. So, not a very positive experience with my parents' relationship. I've so much empathy for them both, but this is reality of what was modeled to me. Reflecting on this was a stark reality. Men are overly sexual and women don't like it. Men cheat, women are replaceable. Relationships are volatile and dangerous. Men have to be placated. Yeah, wow. There's a lot in there, and there's a lot to work with in that. Yeah, and it takes a lot of courage to even just observe and come to those reflections. Yeah, yeah. So if you're open to a little practice for yourself in the coming week, I would suggest playing with what does the opposite of this look like, and what is the healthy balance somewhere on that spectrum of what you have experienced, what the total opposite is, and where on that spectrum do you want to find yourself? What's the story that you want to write for yourself? And this is a practice any of you can do if you've been doing your own reflections. I develop patterns of either holding back emotionally or overgiving to maintain connection. Yeah, wow. Mm. Yeah, there's a lot to work with that as well, right? And it's that constant observing then in the day to day where that is. Yeah, such a balance because it's like both ends of the spectrum, right? With that. Mm. So yeah, I think the antidote is showing up more vulnerably when you feel like holding back, and yeah, when you notice yourself reaching out, then holding. Yeah, there's a lot in that. Mm. And I also, yeah, so somebody else relates here with overgiving to maintain connection. I highly recommend consent and boundary work. I don't have any events in the calendar now, but it's so valuable to really begin to play with these edges of where I end, where another begins, how much am I giving, what's my yes, what's my no, to yeah, to support all of this with the overgiving, especially. Great. So I'm going to, and anybody, you can share away and we'll get to the comments as we go along. So please at any stage, drop your questions in, or if you have anything that you want to share, please do type away. Getting to the listening and reflecting practice. So I'm going to bring up our guide. Perfect. So here I had setting space for a practice, and this is for everything. This is for the listening and reflect. This is for landing in with a friend for an uncomfortable conversation. This is for coming into connection with your partner. It's for everything. So that's why I have this. And at the end of the 8 weeks, I'm going to give you like a manual of all the practices together, and that will be in there. This is helpful when you get into the breakout rooms just to land together. So it's this taking some breaths, arriving into yourself, feeling into yourself, like I am here, now I'm here with another, making a little bit of eye contact, and then beginning. So that when you land into breakout rooms, it's, yeah, you're coming into regulation as a priority over introducing yourself and filling uncomfortable silence with small talk. So, deciding how long you'll practice and who will start, I will have already shared with you how long you will practice and who will start. You can then decide that. I'll go first, you'll go first, I'll ask the question. And then, to end, there'll be a thanking of one another, and then usually there'll be a little bit of time for impact. So that's how that will go on all of the breakout rooms. So the invitation here is just to begin to hone in this skill of not needing to fill the silence with small talk and instead focusing on regulating and landing into yourself. So the practice this is what we shared last week. So the first partner is asking the question, sharing, is there more? And then reflecting what I heard you say and checking, did I get that right? I'm going to pop those cues into, there's a little chat for the broadcast rooms as we go along so that you have your little reminders. It's really helpful, to have them there if you feel like it's to write them out or print them off or whatever, if you want them for yourself. But as we go in the broadcast rooms, I will share those. The intention of this is to really, for the speaker to have this space to really share. And it's not that you need to have your answer already prepared, because, for example, with this question, what does conscious relating mean to you? And we're going to do a different share. We're not going to get back to this question in the breakout rooms, but you don't need to have your answer already prepared. Like this is an exploration. It's live in the moment. These are that question, like what does conscious relating mean to you, the same as what does a healthy relationship mean to you? And I think what does a healthy relationship mean to you is even more important. This is a question I want you to keep checking in and asking yourself with for the entirety of these 8 weeks. So when you land in and you have 3 minutes to share with somebody, you're just beginning to explore. And then you're really expanding on that. And on like a Wednesday morning when you're in the gym and you're like, it's whatever it is, laughter. I want to have laughter in my relationship. Then you're going back and adding that to your list. The person who is listening, you're developing the skill and capacity to hear another without needing to fix, without needing to offer advice. This isn't a space for offering advice. Unless somebody asks you explicitly for advice, do not give advice. The only reflection that you're giving is what I heard you say, not what my opinion of what you said is, because that's what advice is, what my opinion of what you said is. You're not doing that. We're just reflecting back what I heard you say and a summary. And in this way, you're really being present with another person, and it's more secure. You're creating that space where somebody can share fully about whatever they have to share without worrying about your judgment, because you're not there to give judgment. You're just there to listen. Is there any questions about that? Or is everybody clear? Great. So we are going to go into a breakout room, and we're going to do what we didn't have the opportunity to do last week, which is meet another person, introduce ourselves, and share a little bit about why you're here. You're going to have 5 minutes each, and it's going to be this practice. So let's give, I want to be savvy with our time. Sorry, so I'm questioning now how much time I had given to this. Let's give this, we'll give it 3 minutes to share. You'll have half that to reflect, and then there will be also, before you reflect, there'll be, is there more? When after you reflect, did I get that right? And then you'll swap over and there'll be a little bit of time to debrief. So I'm going to drop the cues in. If your timing is a little bit off, don't worry. If I say, okay, now asking, is there more? And then I give a little bit of time and you're swapping, but somebody's still sharing about what there's more for them. Try to be more or less timely, but also don't panic if you're a little bit over and you're not exactly on the time. So all together, so 3, 4.5, you'll be in there for just over 10 minutes with a little bit of time at the end um to debrief and be like, oh, it's been really nice to meet you, or whatever it is that you want to say. I'm also from County Clare, or, a little bit of free time at the end. And also just how it was to be met with that presence, and how it was to hear somebody reflecting back. Maybe it's really uncomfortable, or maybe it's the first time. So is that good for everybody? Lovely. So I'm going to create some breakout rooms. They're random, so you may or may not be with somebody that you've met already. Perfect. And I will see you on the other side. So remembering when you arrive, just deciding who's going to go first, taking a breath and landing together. Okay. So our next piece that we're going to go into is around assumptions. And we're going to do a couple of practices on this. I'm going to give a little bit of theory after we do a practice. So I'm going to ask Brian to help me with this in a practice he hasn't done before. So turn in the deep end. If you can unmute yourself, lovely. Thank you. So this practice, we're going to go into breakout rooms for this, and this practice is around assumptions, and we were going to stay kind and curious in this. We're just going to demo for a minute. You're going to have 4 minutes. When you go into a breakout room and you're doing the practice and it's 4 minutes, one direction, even if there's long moments of pause, just stay with the flow, that one direction. Be with the discomfort. And in this, it's about, we have a few cues. I have an assumption. I have a story, or the story I'm telling myself is, I imagine that. and you seem. So I suggest that you take your paper and pen and write down these cues. So the first is I have an assumption. I have an assumption. The second cue is I have a story, or the story I'm telling myself is. I have an assumption. I have a story. The story I'm telling myself. I'm putting it here in the chat for anybody who needs a little bit longer. I imagine that, and you seem. So we're going to give a few minutes here. So Ryan, in this practice, you are the receiver, and we're going to do a debrief afterwards of how these assumptions impacted you. But for now, for the next minute, I'm just going to create some assumptions. So I imagine that you must be hungry because you have worked all day and then jumped straight on this call. The story I'm telling myself is that you're probably also quite tired. I imagine. Hmm. So if I didn't know you, what I would say, because this is a little bit hard because I know you. If I didn't know you, I would say, I imagine that you wear glasses all the time and maybe sometimes contact lenses.
Mm,
You seem like somebody who is quite open and friendly.
mm,
I have an assumption that you are in your spare bedroom.
mm.
Okay, oh, we did a minute and 20. So what I would love to know is how listening to these assumptions impacted you. How did you feel listening to these assumptions? Did you notice any sensations in the body, any contractions, any expansion?
Yeah, there was no contractions. I also didn't feel any expansion. I felt quite neutral. Um, when you shared around wearing glasses all the time,
Mm,
which I don't,
mm,
yeah, I was just reflecting that, oh, yes, I can see why you would assume that,
mm,
but no, I don't wear glasses all the time. And yeah, when you shared that you assumed that I'd be hungry after not eating, I wasn't hungry, but then it kind of like for a moment there I was like, oh, am I hungry? But then I realized, oh, well, no, I'm not hungry. So it was really interesting how it got me to reflect on those points, even though there was an assumption.
mm. Yeah, yeah, thank you. I mean, it's much, much more challenging to do because we live together and we know each other. If you're with the purpose of this practice now is that you're going to go into a breakout room with somebody you don't know, and let's see what you can glean. So yeah, let's see how accurate or wildly inaccurate you can be. It's like this is a game. So begin to just play with it. I imagine that you have children. I imagine you live by yourself. I imagine you love to dance. I imagine you're a very sporty person. I imagine you've been working all day. I imagine whatever it is. The story I'm telling myself is that you're vegan. You seem like the kind of person who is very sociable. So really, really play with it when you go into the breakout room. Thank you, Ryan. So I'm going to pause.
So
Okay, welcome back,
it was
everybody.
good.
I'd
Yeah, I
love
just
to
say that it
hear.
was good, but I have a
Oh,
feeling that I will not give her a space to say how she felt on the end.
okay, that she
The
didn't have
feeling.
enough time to reflect.
No, just very short and then we finish because
Okay,
we need to back. Maybe
yeah,
next time.
yes. And also, what you could do if you remember who it was is you could just maybe send
Hmm.
her a WhatsApp message from the group afterwards and ask her if she wants
I
to
will.
drop a 1 or 2 minute voice note and how it was. Yeah.
So the beautiful lady, think about it.
Yeah. Great. Reading a comment here. That was so much fun. Good. So what did you learn? What did you learn in this practice? Was it, yeah, were you accurate? Was the other person accurate? Were they wildly inaccurate?
I can say I think I really enjoyed the experience. I kind of forgot how I struggled a bit with the the 4 minutes felt very long. I was like, oh my gosh, and then you just feel like, oh, I'm making judgments. I'm making judgments. This is awful. So it just feels that it felt very uncomfortable. Like the first few minutes fine, but the last 2 minutes I was like, oh God, this is feeling tough now. But then interesting when it was turned on the other foot, then it was actually kind of lovely. It was nice, and it's like wow, people can get a lot from even just what you look like, or a 10-second interaction, and it's just very interesting hearing all the things that people can think about and talk about when just from a first impression. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. I love that. And yeah, I know the 4 minutes is long. That's why I sent a message halfway through, like, you're doing great, keep going. Because it's amazing. I find in the discomfort, when it starts to get uncomfortable, when it's a one way, that's when we actually access something much deeper then. And this is like, I find applicable to a lot of different practices. When you have like 10 minutes and you're like, oh my God, it's still another 6 minutes to go. It feels like this is forever. Yeah, you really tap into another level. So great. I'm reading to a couple of comments here. Accurate. So, and I was surprised how positive the assumptions were. She was very accurate. Yeah, great. It's amazing. This practice amazes me when I get into a room with a stranger, how much yeah, how accurate you can be. And yeah, we're going to explore a little bit more about assumptions. The yeah, all sides of assumptions. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. So this is in your PDF as well. We're just going to run through it now. I need to move my Zoom box. Okay. See. Perfect. Okay, can you see that? Is that clear on your screen? Yeah, great. So I'm just going to run through this and we're going to explore it a little bit. So assumptions affect connection because they shape how we interpret people before we actually know them or have met them with curiosity, asked for clarification. In relationships, we rarely respond only to what's happening in the moment. We respond to the story we've already created about the other person and to our own reaction. So assumptions can create emotional distance. The moment we think, I already know what that person is like, they wouldn't understand me, they're confident, they're not interested, we stop exploring. So this is where we shut down because we're telling ourselves a story of how we think that it is. Assumptions close doors that curiosity will keep open. Assumptions change our behavior towards people, and I find this fascinating. So, even silent assumptions affect tone of voice, eye contact, patience, warmth, listening, or inclusion. For example, if I assume somebody is intelligent, I might listen more carefully. If I assume that they're shy, I might dominate the conversation. If someone is older than me and they're a senior, I might filter myself. Or if somebody appears very confident, then I might check in with them. So the assumption becomes relational behavior. And if often the other person feels that behavior immediately, even if nothing is spoken. So with assumptions, there's a lot of underlying murky stuff that can be happening. Assumptions can become self-fulfilling. People may unconsciously respond to how they're perceived. If somebody senses distrust, dismissal, admiration, expectation, intimidation, they adapt. For example, if I assume somebody is cold, I might become quite guarded in myself, and then they sense my guardedness and become more distant. So now my assumptions, it seems that I'm true, or they are cold, but the connection was shaped by the assumption itself. So I just find these dynamics really, really interesting. Move on to the next page. Here we go. So positive assumptions can also be limiting. This is important because people often only think about negative assumptions. But for example, you seem so strong, you've got it all together, you're naturally confident, you're the reliable one. These can disconnect people from support, vulnerability, or being fully seen. And many people carry invisible pressure from positive assumptions. And assumptions aren't always wrong. Some assumptions are surprisingly accurate, as you've explored in this practice, because humans naturally read social and emotional cues. The key is staying curious enough to update our assumptions rather than treating them as facts. Connection deepens when people feel genuinely seen and understood, and each person has the courage to reveal themselves. So the antidote to assumption is curiosity. And yeah, I feel that this is a really important piece because it is just applicable throughout life. And I was actually like, I have a part-time job and I was in the garden, I'm a gardener. I was in the garden yesterday with my colleagues and we kind of started talking about this topic without them knowing that I was like talking about this on my course, right? And yeah, I gave the example of to her of like if I land into work and she is a bit kind of quiet and aloof, a way that then I could start to assume I could start to think like, oh God, that thing I said last week. I think I've really upset her and now she's really annoyed with me and this is really uncomfortable. And then I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable in myself and I'm like hyping it up. But actually, when I become curious and I'm like, hey, so I've noticed that you're less chatty than normal this morning. And the story I'm telling myself is that it's because of what I said when we were working together last week that I've insulted you. Is that true? So I'm checking and I'm asking for clarification. Then she might just be like, oh no, actually, I just got my period and I'm really grumpy. I'm like, oh, okay. So then our connection is deeper because I've had the courage and the vulnerability to share what's going on in my inner world. I'm starting to feel a little bit of panic because I think that I have insulted you. And then we're just clearing up and cleaning up the whole dynamic. And this is a really, really valuable tool in day-to-day life. So I have included some sentence stems when asking for clarification. And these are really, really helpful. And I love sentence stems because it's like it gives us a framework to work with. And in this type of communication and conscious relating, I always find that these practices and sentence stems, it gives me something that has already been created where I'm not just trying to figure it all out for myself. And the more you use them, the more it becomes naturally integrated and you're able to use these tools and practices without thinking about them, without them being like so official, because now we're doing them and it's very structured. But the purpose or the idea is that there's going to be a time when you naturally notice yourself making an assumption about somebody and then just checking it out. So the sentence stems that I've included here are I have an assumption, the story I'm telling myself, I imagine that, and you seem. So it's the same things that we've used in the practice. So that is my piece on assumptions. I'm going to stop my screen share and we're going to do a fun little game. Let me check my messages. Okay, great. I'm reading a message here that says, I love that tool. It's super clear. I needed that. Thank you. Fantastic. I'm so pleased. These things are life-changing and they are so incredibly simple. And that's why I love it. So we're going to do a fun little game. It is helpful if you write down these sentence stems now that we're going to use for the next practice. I'm going to type them in here at the same time. So the first one is, if you really knew me, you would know. Dot, dot, dot. I'm really passionate about something I'm really good at. And I suggest all of you to do this one because I think it's a cultural thing. And I know we've other cultures here, but they may relate also that people find it challenging to, there's a generalization, people can find it challenging to speak about themselves and big themselves up. On the last course, I know there's a couple of people who did the dating course with me. I had them go in for 10 minutes. They had to speak about why they're a really awesome person and great to date. It was so much fun. So you can just be glad that this is just a sentence. And the last one is a perfect day. A perfect day for me is. So yeah, we're going to use this time to reveal ourselves and yeah, move into another stage of connection and have a little bit of fun with this. I'll do this afterwards. Yeah, so it's 3 minutes each. So you've 3 minutes to use any of those four sentence stems, and you can, use two or three. You'll probably have time to do two or three. So if you really knew me, you would know that I'm also quite introverted as well as being quite outgoing. Or, my perfect day for me is, and you can really run through what that looks like. 3 minutes, all one direction. And then there's going to be a moment to wrap up, take a breath, and then you're going to swap, and the other person is going to go for 3 minutes. And then there will be a little bit of time for a debrief. Perfect. So we were just going through from week one the assumptions and the ways, sorry, not the assumptions, the ways in which we distance through not taking responsibility in our communication. So that's in your week one PDF, and part of your homework for this week is to observe where you are where you're communicating in this way and where people in your life are communicating in this way. So thank you all so much for taking the time to join live, and for those that are listening to the recording, for listening to the recording. Please do try to come to as many lives as you can, because as you can see, there's a lot of breakout rooms and you get that practice in. But if you miss a couple, that's also totally fine as well. I'm going to send the PDF into the WhatsApp group now in 10 minutes. And then the recording and the link will go out probably in the morning now once this recording buffers and I get a chance to send it out by email. I'll do that first thing. Any questions in the meantime, do pop them into the group. Feel free to send me a private message. If you need to debrief on anything, you can also send me a message or an email. And yeah, wishing you a wonderful week and good luck with putting this into practice. That is the homework in itself, is just getting out there and starting to use the tools in your everyday life. Thank you all so much. Have a
Thanks,
great week.
Jeanette.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
My pleasure.
Thanks.